Next, we're going to look at the transform tools, which do what they say on the tin. They literally transform whatever it is you're working on. So the first thing you need to do is decide what you're going to change. So I'm going to, I've got different layers here, but I'm going to stick to my B layer. If I wanted to work on my butterfly, I'd choose that layer. So I'm going to stick on my B layer, and there's various tools within transform, such as resize or scale, rotate, warp, flipping, are just some examples. So I can of course use the properties toolbar, but there are other tools as well as a shortcut that I'll show you in a minute. So if I hold down Control on the keyboard and press T, that tells the computer that I want to transform whichever layer I'm on in some way, and it puts handles around the outside of the image. So to scale it, you can see here I get a double arrow around the handle on the image, and if I just click on that, it just makes it bigger, and that is called scaling. Now I can do that up here using the mathematics, but I find it much easier to see it like this. And when you're happy, you can either press the tick up here, or you can just press enter on the keyboard. Job done. You'll notice before I press enter it looked quite pixelated, but don't worry, it won't necessarily lose its quality. It depends on the original resolution of the image. But when you press enter, you'll be able to see the real effect. So I'm quite happy with my giant bee. I'm just going to move it in slightly. It's a bit scary actually. But now I've decided actually I don't want it quite like that. I want to change the rotation of it. So if I press Control T again, because I'm still on my bee, if I have a look again, when I move my mouse around the edge and I'm not on those handles there, you can see I get an arrow which has got like a double arrow curved, and that allows me to then rotate my bee. So I'm going to do that like that, and again when I'm happy I just press enter. So I can do that as many times as I want really. If I want to be more specific about it, I could use the properties toolbar as I said, or when I press Control and T I can right click and I've got other options here to rotate it a certain amount down the bottom. But you'll also notice over here we've got free transform, scale, which is one we've used already, rotate we've just talked about, skew, which one's changing the angle a bit slightly, distort and perspective. So you can play around with as many of these as you like. I'm going to quickly look at warp, and then we'll look at how we flip something. So let's try warp. When I click on warp, what that does is give me points, basically like a grid within my image. So if I wanted to, I could take this side of my bee and massively make it bigger if I was doing a scary bee thing. And when I click on it, you can see there's like a grid that appears. That allows me to see which bit I'm going to be warping, which is really helpful. So I can just literally click anywhere in the picture, change the way it looks. So you can fiddle around with that for ages to get completely different effects depending on the object and what you're trying to achieve. But the thing I would warn against is using effects for the sake of it, to make sure it's relevant to what you're doing. Okay, and when you're happy again, press enter. So now what I want to do is I want to duplicate this bee. I'm happy with the way it looks, but I want one kind of on this side. So rather than trying to cut it all out again and put it on here and make it look the same, I'm literally going to duplicate the layer. So I go over to my layers panel where it says B1, that's the layer I'm on, and if I right click, I get all these options, but the only one I need to worry about is this one. It's called duplicate layer. If I press that, duplicate layer, it asks me what I want to call it. I'm going to call it B2, and I'm going to press OK. Now it looks like it's done nothing, but if you have a look over here in the layers panel, it has actually made a new layer, but as you can hopefully see from the tiny image here, it's placed it right on top of the original layer. So all I do now is make sure I'm on the B2 layer there, look, use my move tool, move it away, and you'll see it's behind it. Perfect. So all I need to do now is worry about transforming B2 and flipping it this way. So use Control and T, right click, and I'm going to flip horizontal. And now my B is facing the other way. I'm going to place it about there and press enter. I'm happy with that. So that's how you duplicate a layer, which is a really useful tool, and also how you flip horizontally. The same thing applies if you want to flip vertically. So Control and T, right click, flip vertical. Now, of course, it wouldn't make any sense in this instance with the digital graphic I've got there. So if you make a mistake, all you have to do, remember, is use your history panel. So I'm going to go Window, History, and if I go to the last thing I did here, my free transform, if I go back a stage, it just flips it back the other way. Okay. So remember to use your history panel if you need to. You can then, of course, use your transform tool at any point to do anything you want. So I'm just going to move that out of the way slightly. I'm going to have him buzzing down there. Say I wanted to do the same for my butterfly. I think what I'll do is make a duplicate of the butterfly. So I'm going to right click, duplicate, call it butterfly 2. Again, I can move it because it's placed on top of it. And this time I'm going to transform butterfly 2, make it look a bit bigger. Press enter. I'm happy with that. Now, so you can build up a really complicated picture using not many images if you need to. But again, it really depends on the digital graphic that you are making and what the final product needs to look like. So do bear that in mind whenever you're working and using the different tools. There's got to always be a reason behind it.